Good morning and welcome to another edition of the National Newspaper Publishers Association's Let It Be Known. It is Tuesday, March 29th, 2022. Respectability politics versus defending Black women. Black Twitter is on fire. Remember when Solange sang Don't Touch My Hair? Part of her anthem went, Don't touch my hair when it's the feelings I wear. Don't touch my soul when it's the rhythm I know. Don't touch my crown, they say, the vision I've found. Long before Solange sang about that, the obsession with controlling Black hair remains pervasive in our society today. Black women and girls are scrutinized and subjected to body terrorism in ways that make it virtually impossible to comfortably move through life. The politics of Black hair dates back to slavery and recently the passing of the Crown Act that prohibits discrimination specifically against African Americans because of their hair. And while it may not be enough for those outraged by Will Smith's infamous smackdown of Chris Rock at the Oscars, it's little wonder why that moment has so many people split on this issue. This morning, we discussed the politics of Black hair with NNPA's TikTok manager and Howard University senior Carrington York and Dr. Grace Gipson of Virginia Commonwealth University. Good morning, Carrington and Dr. Gipson. How are you?
Good morning.
Good to
Excellent,
see you
excellent.
guys.
Doing good.
And before we really get into it, first we start with the slap. But more than that, and from a real Black perspective, the immediate aftermath paint Black men as out of control, angry, and violent. That's exactly what folks want. The New York Post, although favorably, compared Will to what Harvey Weinstein and Roman Polanski, and that's abhorrent, of course, and obnoxious. But what's not getting the light that it should is the elder statesman, two Black icons, Denzel Washington and Tyler Perry, stepping in to keep things civil and calm as they spoke with Will during the break. And when Chris Rock approached Jada and Will also during the break, Denzel again got out of his seat and stepped between them and spoke to the trio, with Rock leaning over the stage to listen from the stage, and Will and Jada holding hands, showing that they were united in this. Before we get into the main topic, I wanted to ask you if you saw those images of Denzel Washington and Tyler Perry speaking with Will and also speaking with Chris Rock. Did you guys see that?
I did, yes.
And your immediate thoughts there?
I mean, the fact that Denzel is, has this, level of class, the fact that he was able to kind of come in to, I'm not going to say save the day, but kind of be that guide, be that mentor to, because we don't know what was said between them, but
Right.
it was definitely kind of like the show of support and love. Like, let me come talk to my brother here and see what's transpiring through his mind versus chastising, versus saying, oh, you should know better. It's this moment of like, let me come and support in this moment, because this moment just blew up here, and God knows what he's thinking. So
Yeah, and from Will, what we do know is that one of the things Denzel did say was that at the moments like these, the devil's gonna come for you. Carrington, how important was that moment that you had such a respected elder statesman, as we said, like Denzel Washington, speak to Will?
Yeah, that was a truly important moment. Images where we see Black men loving on each other are ones that the world needs. And so everyone was focused on the slap, and I was looking at how Black men were supporting each other through an emotional experience, which we know it was truly emotional for Will. And so we saw vulnerability of the Black man, and then we also saw community of Black men, and that was important.
Yeah, and we know that Diddy had mentioned that they were going to take care of it as a family. Um, Things like that was really good to see, despite we hearing from all channels about the rage of Will and how inappropriate, or in some circles, how appropriate it was. No matter what side of the fence you sit on, you had to have been comforted and warmed by what Denzel and Tyler Perry did in the immediate aftermath of that incident. Also, this morning, of course, we go to our main topic, right? Respectability, politics versus defending Black women. Black Twitter, of course, is on fire. But let's start, Dr. Gipson. You know, we know that Black hair is sacred, right?
Mhm, mhm.
At least we in the Black community know that. So can you talk about that a little bit, and as it relates to this incident?
Yeah, I mean, so black hair for black women is a show of pride. It's also, there's trauma in that. So depending upon whether it's a loss of it or whether you are, having a certain style, there's always been this sense of control that's been attached to it. Of how should I wear my hair? Or, what does your job think about that? Or what are your family going to think about that? Or are you going to be able to move in society based on the different type of, the different styles of hair? And so the fact that black women's hair has always been seen as, a thing to pet or as a joke, and particularly in this manner with the slab, it's just this easy thing of, oh, let me just translate Jada Pinkett's alopecia with GI Jane, and it's okay. And it's like, no, actually, it's really not. Like, this is something that many women suffer through, and many women are having to constantly deal with on a day to day. So to just randomly say, "Oh, yeah, I'm going to make a joke about it," very callously, is really not considering everything, that the baggage and everything that's attached to that.
Yeah, Carrington, would you say, and I've heard folks say this, and based on what Dr. Gibson just said, what Chris Rock did was tantamount to certainly making fun of a cancer patient.
I wouldn't compare the two, simply because one is life threatening and the other one doesn't tend to be. However, this is her body. This is something that's very this is an autoimmune disease. It absolutely affects her daily life. Hair affects everyone's daily life, but as a black woman, that's something we think long and hard about, that we have to build ourselves up to walk outside with whatever we have on our head. And it takes a certain amount of bravery. And not to mention only that, but she has in the past, Jada Pinkett Smith has in the past went on her show Red Table Talk to explain what a sensitive process it was to shave off her head. So she has been very vocal about how sensitive the issue is to her already. So to kind of dance on that line is just
Yeah.
irresponsible.
And Dr. Gibson, this respect and Black women's hair, the Crown Act was passed, and the Crown Act, and the reason we bring the Crown Act up is because the acronym is create a respectful and open workspace for natural hair.
Hmm.
That tells you, at least in my view, it tells you the need to respect Black women's hair. I mean, they put it in the title of this act.
Right. And it's about normalizing all types of hair, not just European Western standard of hair. And so to, say that natural hair can be worn in however that natural state is, normalizes it in the workplace, and versus people having to wonder, like, should I straighten my hair during an interview, and then once I get the job, wear it natural? Or now nobody has, people don't have to have that fear of being
Mm-mm.
judged or being seen as less than, because their hair is in this, they choose to wear their hair in this natural state.
Yeah, and to go along with that too, Carrington, Dr. Gibson, in 2013, there was the Equal Opportunity Commission, which filed a lawsuit on behalf um, of several folks who argued that a company that hired this Black woman before they rescinded the job offer due to her locks, and they decided, the EEO decided that it was racially discriminatory. So it goes back, the NAACP got involved in that case. The NAACP Legal Defense Fund got involved in that case. And of course, the Supreme Court declined to hear it. And then in 2018, there was also a young girl at Christ the King Elementary School in Terrytown, Louisiana, who was sent home from school because of her braided hairstyle with extensions. And so we see that this assault, if you will, on Black women and their hair, it's ongoing.
It's ongoing and international. I mean, I remember an incident happening in South Africa, a very similar, with young girls. So now it's not even just young women, it's young girls who are being, told how to wear their hair, or that their hair is ugly, or that their hair is not nice enough or not respectable enough. So this is an international issue, not even just, here in the US.
Yeah, and you see that again. Will Smith, he stood up. I gotta ask you, not to digress, but I gotta ask each of you your thoughts on him standing up. Last week we saw how Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson was verbally assaulted constantly by Republicans in the Senate, and Cory Booker stood up. I've heard some women say that they really were pleased to see a Black man stand up for a Black woman. I wanted both of your thoughts on that. And Carrington, you can start.
Absolutely. So my first initial reaction, without thinking too hard about it, was I felt affirmed as a Black woman. I felt, I saw an image of other people interpreted as Black on Black crime, but I saw a Black man defending his Black wife in Hollywood on a national stage. So my first thought was, Black love. He was doing this for Black love. Was it professional? No, obviously, but that's something that we don't see that much, especially with high earning men in Hollywood. First of all, they've been the archetype for Black love for years, but we're seeing him put his hands where his words were, and I think that's important to see, that there is fire behind Black women to support Black women.
Yeah, Dr. Gipson.
Yeah, so there was a lot of emotions that ran. It was first kind of like, wait, what just happened? It was kind of a state of shock. And then it was just like, this really happened. Like, he really went up there and did that. And I'm like, you know what? A part of me is like, yes, okay, I'm okay with that. Much to what Carrington said, like, finally, there's this public display of showing respect, and of this idea of making sure that Black women are being seen. And so it was very much a wow, and a very much like, yep, he did that. And then it kind of like, oh, what happens next? I truly did wonder, like, oh, what's gonna happen here towards Will. I wasn't even really thinking about Chris Rock. I was like, oh no, what's gonna happen next with Will here?
And again, I gotta ask both of you this question. The slap. Were you good with that? Was it okay?
Well, I don't condone violence. I know we're all supposed to say that. I don't condone violence or anything, but let's think about it. We're talking about Chris Rock, who in 2009 created the documentary Good Hair to affirm his own daughter's struggle with their natural hair. And so to go on stage, on a national stage, go on there and verbally, make fun of another Black woman during during Women's History Month, that's not it. That's not how you do it. You know what I'm saying? So it was very, the irony was just so apparent, and I don't know why Chris Rock isn't getting more fire, because if this matter of loving and appreciate Black women and how they present their hair is truly an issue to you, you could have just left that alone. You could have made a joke about any other celebrity in the room.
You could have made a joke about Will, right?
Will.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Dr. Gipson.
Yeah, it was one of those, like, a yes and no. Like, it was like, yes, that was warranted, but no, it wasn't, because it was like, I'm thinking about the backlash of what's going to happen here. But at the same time, I'm like, I mean, he did walk into it. It wasn't like, he didn't know better. So, yeah.
So let me ask you guys this. we recall a few years ago, Kanye West, as Taylor Swift was receiving the Grammy Award, he went up and he stole her moment. That he said Beyonce deserved this award, and really just totally interrupted that process on a national stage or international stage. Carrington, talk about those two incidents, that and what happened the other night. Which is worse?
Um, Absolutely Kanye, because I I feel like Kanye is worse. He stole an artist's like really big moment. He, in one breath, he was affirming one artist, but also tearing down another artist. We know Kanye is a bit obnoxious. I will say this moment with Chris and Will, it is the next, Taylor Swift and Kanye kind of moment, because this is live TV. None of us expected any of these things. We're going with the flow. But I'm still going to have to say Kanye is worse. Will Smith was defending his wife, which is important.
Yeah, I have to agree. Kanye was way worse. Kanye was on some selfish. That was a selfish move for him. That was nothing against. And as much as he was saying one artist was better, it wasn't about that. It was about him, taking that moment for himself to say what he felt he needed to say. So way, way, way worse in that situation. Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to highlight, lift up what Angela Connolly and others have said. Angela Connolly says, "You can roast me if you want. Some men will almost kill someone for disrespecting, stepping on their shoes in the club. What's wrong with standing up for your wife?" And then, of course, Dr. Nicole McDaniel says, "In all fairness, we do need to think of Chris Rock too. His family witnessed him being assaulted by another black man on national TV. There was a better, more productive way for Will to address the issue," and that comes from a black woman. You guys' response to that?
Yeah, I mean, as the one thing that I've told folks is, I get where Will is coming from. I totally get it, and I understand it. And much like what Carrington said earlier, but at the same time, Chris Rock was out of pocket, and we're kind of like overlooking that. We're kind of putting it on. He's a comedian. This is what comedians do, and not really like addressing the fact that this is still a black man that was joking carelessly about a black woman. So they're just as much to blame. Like there's no really who's right, who's wrong here. Both were wrong in each of what they did, and
Yeah.
need to be addressed in that. So
Yeah. Go ahead, Carrington.
Absolutely. I agree. I do believe that there was obviously a more appropriate way to handle the situation, but I cannot help but feel that a lot of people are mostly ashamed because this happened in front of white people. I keep hearing the phrasing in front of the white people, in front of the white people. Dang, Will, why would you do that in front of the white people? And I just really wish that we would release ourselves from the shackles that is the white gaze telling us how we should feel, how we should react. I do genuinely feel like if this didn't happen on the stage, but instead at the cookout, that a lot of us, would, kind of be like, hey, it is what it is. But that extra factor of the white gaze, I really just want us to leave that to the side. That has nothing to do with us.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about the respectability politics in this in a moment. Just wanted to one more viewer I wanted to lift up, Quentin D. Alexander, who says Chris Rock has publicly stated that he knew nothing of Jada's hair illness or condition. He says he didn't know anything about her condition until the incident. Do we know that? And Andrew Connolly quickly hits back saying it's called doing your homework and knowing the facts before you open your mouth. But do we know that Chris Rock didn't know? We also know what we do know is that there is a history there between the Smiths and Chris Rock. It dates back at least to the 2016 Oscars when Chris was hosting. He made a comment about Jada not being invited to the awards when she was boycotting the awards. And there's been some underlying things prior to this show. Will tweeted a picture of he and Jada saying that they were ready for chaos. So it was almost like, well, okay, were they expecting Chris Rock to be out of pocket? But going back to the main point here, Quentin D. Alexander's point, does that even matter that whether he knew or not?
No, when black women and hair, that is something that is constant. You don't need to know about someone's medical condition to know that, much like Solange said, don't touch my hair. Like, don't touch this topic of black hair and women, black women particularly. I mean, it is very sensitive, it's very emotional, it's traumatizing, it's exploding. And so you don't have to know the situation to just know that that is a topic that really, like, you don't need to mess with that. Don't touch that. And unless there's some affirming going on here, it's kind of like what Will said, don't put my name in your mouth when it comes to my hair.
Yeah.
So I don't think it mattered whether he knew or not, making that comment.
Yeah, and Naima Latif says we are all saying we don't condone violence, but I do think this incident will have the effect of sensitizing uh, comedians to what jokes may be offensive, hurtful, and inappropriate. Will has apologized, admitted he was wrong for slapping Chris Rock. We did get a statement last night or yesterday from Will apologizing for his actions, but the sting of it will remain. The visuals will remain. I mean, there's obviously the social media memes began immediately, and as we've been talking about, there's been a lot of this side, this camp and that camp. Those who are saying Chris deserved it, those saying Will was out of pocket. But I think, and as we highlight some of the comments there, this is Black folk business. We regret it was public. Nevertheless, this is our business. And if you are not Black, you do not, will not, and cannot understand. I'm not saying it makes sense or it's justified, but again, it's our business. It's, the politics, though. Let's talk about that. The politics and Black hair. Dr. Gipson, as we discussed a little while ago, there's Crown Act, there's these other things going on. But talk about the politics of Black hair, if you will.
Whew. I mean, as someone who has natural hair, who has gone through the many questions of being asked, am I going to cut my hair? How long are you going to let it grow out? Are you concerned about how people are going to see you? I've had to really work through that. I've had to work through how my hair may, threaten people, or there is a level of fear as it relates to how I wear my hair. There was a time that, I mean, my locks were much longer than they are now. But I remember just having like a Samson complex about, having to cut my hair or doing that because of what others were thinking and feeling. And for me, this is a choice that I choose to wear my hair natural in the way that I do. And I can't really concern myself about others when it comes to that. And not every Black woman is going to be able to say that or feels that way. And so there is a level of bravery as it relates to, Black women and their hair and, the steps that they have to take. There's always this natural hair journey or the big chop. People have, YouTube vlogs about that. So it is very much a topic that is near and dear to to many women, and it's a sense of pride. It's a sense of empowerment. So to kind of take that away is taking someone's piece of their identity.
Yeah, Carrington, the politicizing Black hair, the politics behind it. Your thoughts?
Absolutely. So I was a part of the generation that obviously saw the natural hair movement really pick up speed. And while this was happening, I'm, growing into my adulthood. And so it affected me and how I moved through the world as a Black woman. And one of those key points of that period was going with my family to see Chris Rock's Good Hair documentary. And I felt very affirmed after seeing it, learning the history of the creamy crack. And, I hadn't used perm before ever in my life, but just knowing all the different layers to how Black hair is perceived was really important for my matriculation as a young adult. And so I think there's some responsibility when you come out with that kind of film, because this is a part of people's journeys throughout their lives and their self-love journeys. So yeah, he needs to do his research a bit more and remember his own career that includes the Good Hair film.
Yeah, and Dr. Gipson, it is true. Black women's femininity is, and if I said that right, Carrington, is often defined by their hair and the length of it. Can you just talk about that a little bit too?
Oh yeah, I mean, I remember. So prior to getting, my hair, locking up my hair, people are like, oh my God, your hair is so beautiful, it's so long and and straight, and it was so many compliments due to that. And so I'm just thinking like, so if my hair was short, is it still not, feminine? Is it still not beautiful? It's still not pretty? Like it has to be this, straight lace, and I'm just like, wow, okay, so we really have to consider what we're telling people is beautiful or how we're defining beautiful, as it relates to particularly Black women's hair. Like you have to specify Black women's hair because no one else gets that kind of critique like Black women. And so, having short hair or even having, no hair, and some people choose to do that, then that's very androgynous, or that's, very manly looking. And it's like, but this is still a woman who is, embracing herself and embracing the beauty that it is.
Yeah. Carrington?
Our hair defies gravity. It's
Yeah.
really not supposed to touch our shoulders. If we're being frank, it's supposed to be out and up and defying gravity. And I think that's the important thing to note here. I remember doing my big chop. If you're familiar with the Black hair journey, it's when you cut off a lot of your hair to start fresh and move forward naturally. And I remember doing that, and of course my hair was like a small little fro right here. And my mother would say to me, put a bow in it,
Right.
do something. She felt like she had to reach in and like feminize me, because somehow in her mind I had become less feminine when I cut my hair. And my mom's probably watching. I love you, Mom, but that's just the thing that we've internalized, And so that's really important to remember, that these are the conversations we have within our own homes. It's been embedded over and over and over again through media and all these things that tell us we're not feminine with how our hair just naturally hangs, So yeah, that's important.
Yeah, and Carrington, I'm going to ask Dr. Gipson the same question. I'm going to ask you, start with you on this. When it comes to your hair, whether you have a significant other in your life or not, what's the best and the worst thing they could say about your hair as a Black woman?
I'm gonna let you go ahead with it.
Okay. The worst thing that they can say is, I like it better when you do this, because it's like, why? Like, I'm the same person. We obviously know that if I straighten it, it'll look like this. If I do this, it'll look like this. But it's still me. I'm the same girl. You know what I'm saying? So that would bother me, and it would make me feel like I'm being molded into something, like a particular box that I'm supposed to look like.
Yeah. And wait, Dr. Gipson, and the best thing they could say, Carrington.
Oh, yes. Oh, and the best thing they can say is, I love your hair today. Or I love your hair. Just, I love your hair. Don't say today.
Don't say today.
Right.
Take notes, everybody. That's it for me.
Yeah. I mean, what's the worst? Like, so why did you choose to wear your hair like that? Why did you, change over? And it's like, change over. Okay. What was wrong before? Was there something wrong? So, that would be kind of like the immediate, like, okay, I think we need to have a conversation here. But the best thing I would have to agree is, I love your hair, or yes, that style, you got that, commenting the specific style would be, another one, like, okay, all right. So you're taking notice of how the hair is looking. So
See, I asked that question as a Black man. I'm trying to help my brothers out, So let's leave it with this before we close. Going back, closing it out with the slap for a Black woman, and I think we kind of touched on it, or we probably covered it, but just to punctuate the point, Turn on, turn off. The slap.
Say the question again.
For Black women, that slap by Will to Chris defending his Black woman. Turn on or turn off?
Yeah. Turn off, obviously. We're talking about, did we like it?
Yes.
Oh yeah. Romantically, yeah, that was hot. That was like, like really romantically, that's really enticing to see. We don't see those images a lot. So yeah, I think that's like, that you have someone that has that fire behind you, that is going to stand up for you. So I think, yeah, it was a turn on a little bit.
Yeah, I would have to agree. There was that internal like, yes.
I felt bad asking that question.
I was like,
and I meant it with all due respect. Claudette Perry, executive administrator of the NMPA, she says Will could have handled it differently. This is more about how Will responded and his defending his wife. In my view, he ruined the moment for the Williams family and the accomplishment of Questlove. We talked about that, as well as his own. Most jokes are offensive. All jokes are based on real life. Chris acted maturely. This was a dinner, and it does matter how you behave. If it were the NAACP Black Awards, white people or not, Will's actions were immature and hurt his wife in ways that are yet. And she didn't complete that, but she also ended it by saying to the question of turn on or turn off, Carrington, she says it is a turn off for her. So we'll leave it with the boss have the final word on that as a turn off for her. So as we continue to follow this, we may ask Carrington and Dr. Gipson to come back and talk more about this. But thank you so much for joining us this morning. Thank you all for joining Let It Be Known. We'll see you.
Thank you.